My name is Jude Miyagi. I am of Japanese descent and I am from a small town in Castroville, California. As the son of poor Japanese immigrants who spent most of their lives picking artichokes and working as labor in agriculture, I saw my education as very important. I saw my education as an escape from a life of meaningless artichoke picking and having less than minimum wage. I would soon graduate, but I also felt a void in my life. I felt that there was something more I could be doing with my life, but I didn't know what. Soon I enlisted in the U.S. Air Force, where I could find adventure and meaning. I dragged my best friend Johnny along with me to enlist, and we were soon sent to a base called Pearl Harbor.
My name is Punani Miyagi. I'm a 23-year-old nurse in the U.S. Navy and live in Oahu, Hawaii, close to family, like my little sister. Being in the Navy has its benefits. I have a stable job, and I help people as a nurse. And the best of all benefits is that it's brought me to an intelligent, handsome, and somewhat charming man I am proud to call my husband, Jude. There's a lot going on in the world in 1940. World War II started up in Europe, and the Germans, I hear, are causing quite the ruckus of things. But being in America, our president has assured us, come this time around, we're not getting our heads caught up in that sort of mess.
And that I hate war. I say that again.
Hello, my name is John Norris. I grew up in California with my friend Jude, and we came to Hawaii with the Air Force. Jude became a pilot, and now I'm a mechanic. I guess that's because I like to fix things.
Aloha, my name is Kailani Akana. I live with my older sister Nani and her husband. Oahu's so nice. The weather is bipolar, yet is manageable. I couldn't imagine living in any other place. My fiance, Kai, often stops by at our house to spend time with me and my family. We all spend a lot of time together that we become a hana.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special news bulletin. The Japanese have attacked Pearl Harbor, Hawaii by air, President Roosevelt has just announced.
I heard explosions in the distance. When I looked out the window, I expected nothing of much interest. But there were Japanese Zeros all over the sky. Nobody was prepared. The battleships were in flames. So were the hangars. Even the water was on fire.
It started off like any other day. Nani and I sent the boys off to work. We were happy, nonchalant even. Then it hit. The sharp sounds of metal and the loud, deafening echoes of explosions were sounds that'd be hard to forget. I looked at Nani, shaken up and just lost. Nani grabbed my hand and we ran out the door. When I finally came to my senses, only one thought flooded my mind. Kai.
When the bombs dropped down and hit the soils of my home, my first instinct was to run towards the hospital. Lonnie and every other nurse too ran, fully knowing the dangers that they had to face. People looked burned, tattered, and torn. This was the biggest challenge to me as a nurse. I couldn't be in multiple places at once. As I held a man up, bloody and moaning in pain, my main concerns were to help the ones that could be saved and give enough morphine for the fatal. And in the back of my mind, Jude's whereabouts worried me. I hoped not to see him in the hospital, and yet I hoped to see him now. In that moment, in one piece. But I never did.
It was a day I will never forget. It's the day that would set up a domino effect that would forever change my life and the life of my friends and family. The planes, the fire, and the debris were too much to comprehend at the time. The whole world seemed to go to hell. My plane was destroyed, the aircraft carriers were sunk, and people were scared. All I could think of was where Punani was and Lani. Where was Johnny?
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
I found Kai and we ran inland. Then I remembered Jude, but Kai insisted I keep going while he went back. As I rounded the corner of the building, an explosion knocked me forward. My head ringing, I looked back, but where Kai had been, there was only a crater. Eventually, the bombs stopped falling. Thousands were dead and even more were missing. All 8 battleships were sunk or immobile. The carriers were outside the harbor at the time and untouched, but many of the planes at the airport were destroyed. For Nani, Lonnie, Jude, and I, the death toll was Kai. I felt like I was wholly responsible for his death, but I didn't tell anyone how it happened.
Nani and I finally arrived home to Jude and John, solemnly looking at their feet, avoiding contact, despondent. Nani instinctively grabbed Jude and hugged him for the longest time. I could tell Jude was happy to see her, but something was holding him back. I looked for Kai, thinking they were just joking around with me and imagining he'd pop out of nowhere and surprise me. My foolish, naive smile faded as minutes passed as quickly as seconds. Jude handed me a letter. It was small and hard to read. Once I read the words, "We are sorry to inform you," I knew and I broke down in tears, as my worst nightmares became my reality.
I found out later that everyone was okay, but Kai, who is Puani's sister's husband, was missing with no indication of him being hurt or dead. Later, it was found out that he was killed by a direct impact from a bomb.
How could we have been so naive? There was a fire in our neighbor's backyard, and we neglected to help put it out. As of December 7th, the Japanese are the enemy. But I can't think that. Jude, I don't see him as a Japanese pilot. I don't see him as an American pilot. I see him as Jude, the pilot to my heart. And this is going to make everything more difficult. I just don't know what to do anymore. I just don't.
After Pearl Harbor, my wife believed that I would be taken away because it was my people who bombed Pearl Harbor. But I assured her that America wasn't so ruthless to incriminate innocent people. Soon after we had this conversation, I was taken out of the Air Force and from my home because of my Japanese descent. The government felt that I should be put in a camp with many other Japanese so that I could be protected from American aggression. I felt that the government wasn't trying to protect me, but they didn't trust my kind, even though I had been born and raised in the United States. They believed that many Japanese could be spies. I was sent to Manzanar in California. Manzanar was very basic and boring. There were latrines with no partitions, and the houses were very small. The meals were often rice with vegetables. We scarcely had meat because there were rations on it. We were often put to work taking care of chickens and gardens to feed us. There was no real purpose for the camps other than to hold us, and they would separate us from our homes and our family and our country. To pass the time, the older people would often tell stories of their lives, and Japanese stories of inspiration and courage to keep the younger people and the scared calm. We didn't know when we would be let out of the camps. Would we be there until the end of the year, the end of the war, the end of the decade? We had no idea what the future had in store for us. There were no real rebellions, but the setting up of Japanese-American Citizens League was a form of union to help protect each other from injustices done in the camps.
May 29th, 1942. Dear Punani, they haven't allowed us to write letters very much. War simply doesn't allow it. You have probably heard of the Japanese conquest. We just won a battle in the Coral Sea. This was all defense for the ships, since we never actually saw the enemy boats. They were over the horizon, and the planes were sent out to attack. When they came back, the pilots told us how many ships they hit and who didn't make it, while I refueled their ranks. I won't go too deep into battle strategy, but I will say that I think Japan is slowing down. Things are looking up for America and the Allies. John. I sent my female. There was so much that I didn't say, or couldn't say. I didn't want to make it sound like war was a terrible place, but it definitely wasn't pretty. My friends that I knew for years were falling into the cold Pacific at the hands of the merciless Japan. What troubled me more deeply was my contribution to killing the Japanese. When the pilots told me of the planes they bagged, I felt like it was Jude being killed over and over again, and I was maintaining the planes that did it.
the falling leaves.
Most of the time, Lonnie and I keep to ourselves. We do everything we used to do with our day, before the boys were sent away. I miss Jude, and John even. My sister I can tell Mrs. Kai. Sometimes I find her moping about, but I told her that John's been writing, and the thought of normalcy makes her smile. When the boys left in me, I felt a sharp stabbing pain. I haven't been away from Jude this long before. I hear a lot of gossip from the other nurses at the hospital, and read a lot of saddening news in the paper. Apparently America isn't the only ones excluding a certain group of people out of fear. I've heard about Nazi Germany and the concentration camps, but people claim different opinions on it. I don't think anyone knew much about it, actually. From what I hear, though, it isn't good. I'm just hoping somehow life at the Japanese internment camps for Jude isn't a terrible place. I hope he doesn't lose himself or forget me. I hope he comes home soon.
Dear John, how have you been doing? You're probably expecting Nani to reply, but I wanted to write back. We haven't heard anything from Jude yet. I don't think he's allowed to talk to us. Nani's worried about him, but I know he'll be fine. Nani's also been worried about Hitler. We hear that he's been conquesting Europe and is affiliated with Japan. We just need to know what's going on. Hope to see you soon, Lonnie.
March 14th, 1943. Dear Kehlani, how are you doing? I'm so glad to hear from you. It's nice to take a break from all this fighting. After the battles at Guadalcanal Island, I was transferred to another carrier. I'm not allowed to tell you which one or where I am. Are you guys alright? Have you heard from Judy? I wonder if he misses us. I definitely miss you guys. It's been 1.5 years so far. We're winning battles out here. The fleet's getting closer to Japan every day. I think the war is nearing its end. I hope you guys are doing well. Are things going well in Europe? I don't want Hitler to win over Britain. I don't hear about that much, seeing as we're on the opposite side of the earth. Your friend, John.
Start to fall.
Jude came home today. I suddenly felt sick to my stomach. Now that I see Jude, I'm forced to remind myself of Kai. I'm forced to remember his death. I'm forced to think of the possible ways he could have died. How everything ended with a vague letter saying that he was killed in the line of duty. How I missed him very much. I stared at Jude and Nani, horribly envious. I gravely wanted what Nani had with Jude. I wanted Kai.
I cannot even put down into words the joy I felt when I opened that door and found my Jude staring bright-eyed at me. He's home at last. I can't believe how much brighter our house feels with him in it. I find every bit of life brighter now that he's home. I smile more, I laugh more. I forget about the war completely when I'm with Jude.
And when you speak, angels.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special news bulletin from CBS World News. A press association has just announced that President Roosevelt is dead.
President Franklin D. Roosevelt died April 12, 1945. He died of a cerebral hemorrhage one afternoon in Georgia and left an entire nation in tears. I felt a deafening chill in my heart because this one man did so much for so many people he did not know personally. I grew up in an era where FDR was the only president I knew and felt cared about me. He guided us through the Depression, and that was hard on my parents. And now, during the peak of World War II, he has left us. I am 28 now and still serve in the U.S. Navy to do my part because of this man. What hope is there possible now that he's gone? When President Harry S. Truman took over the responsibility Roosevelt left behind, I felt as if there was potential to end the war soon. Truman wanted to create the UN and stop potential wars from happening. And I thought the plan was swell, until...
The world will note that the first atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima, a military base.
On August 6, 1945, an atom bomb was dropped on Hiroshima, Japan. And on August 9th, Nagasaki. I don't understand how a person could come up with a weapon so vastly destructive, especially a bomb after Pearl Harbor. I guess the irony of it is that Japan started us in the war with a bomb, and we attempt to end it with a bigger one.
We won the race of discovery against the Germans. We have used it in order to shorten the agony of war, in order to save the lives of thousands and thousands of young Americans. We shall continue to use it until we completely destroy Japan's power to make war. This is a solemn but glorious hour. I wish that Franklin D. Roosevelt had lived to see this day. General Eisenhower informs me that the forces of Germany have surrendered to the United Nations.
May 8th, 1945. The war ended. Nani and I were sitting in the living room listening to Truman on the television. He announced that the forces of Germany have surrendered to the United Nations. I looked at Nani. She was motionless. A tear ran down her cheek out of pure joy. I hugged her, and I could tell, for once in a long time, relief rested her worried mind.
It is good to be back home after years almost all spent on the sea. I still feel like the ground is swaying beneath me, but there wasn't anything I could do about it.
A beautiful theme of every dream.
Lonnie. Kehlani. Lonnie. Isn't it a beautiful name? I could say it a million times and not get tired of it. She doesn't know it, but I think of her all the time. I wonder what she thinks about. Probably flowers and butterflies. Maybe I'll ask her to go to a movie with me. It'd be wonderful. Best night in the world. Definitely. I'll do it tomorrow.
I met up with John today. It was really different. I haven't had a date with anybody since Kai's passing. And you know what the funny thing about it was? I didn't think about Kai. I didn't feel the pain. I was actually close to being normal, which I haven't been in a really long time. We talked about his experience in war and how I spent my time while they were away. John's really funny. He makes me laugh. It's the first time I've laughed like this in a long time. A really long time. I can finally see the speck of light at the end of this dark tunnel. I hope this feeling lasts.
Well, I got nervous and didn't ask her. I probably said something stupid. I hope I haven't ruined it. I'll ask her tomorrow. I promise to this journal that I'll ask at Kehlani tomorrow. First thing when I see her. Promise.
Why can't I let you know? Why can't I let you know the song?
I didn't ask her out, of course. I'm such a loser. Instead, I told Jude how Kai died. Later that day, Lonnie yelled at me about lies that I had said. What lies? It came out of nowhere. I wasn't sure what to do. Then she stomped off. Now I feel as guilty as when Kai died. Wait. What if Jude told Lonnie about Ollie? I should probably go talk to her. Say I'm sorry. She'll understand, won't she?
Dear Nani, I'm sorry to tell you this way, but I just won't be able to in person. I found out what really happened to Kai, and it hurts, Nani. I feel like my heart's been shot down. I've been trying to hide my pain from you because I didn't want you to worry. But ever since I found out about Kai, I can't get him off my mind. Little memories of him flood my mind, and each memory takes a shot at my heart. I can feel myself deteriorating slowly and painfully, so I figured I could just make it easier on myself and speed up the process. I just really need to see Kai. I miss him terribly. I love you, Lonnie.